Hi, everybody. We are online. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to the NAB follow-up webinar. My name is Joel Stoner. I'm the founder and CEO of Alter Media, and we're the developer of Studio Suite, our leading studio management software. A couple things. This will be about an hour, and we are recording this, so it'll be posted to our site afterwards. And type any questions as they come up. I'll either try to answer them in line or at the end, depending on when I see them. And we've got a lot of registrants here. I'm pretty excited about that. But we do have a mix of existing users and people that are brand new to Studio Suite. So as a result, I'm going to do kind of a broad overview of Studio Suite for the new people with a focus on what's new for the people that are kind of familiar. So the big news, of course, is that Studio Suite X now goes to XI. And you saw on the registration, we had a little fun with that on what the I stands for. It goes to 11. It stands for italics. But more seriously, integrated intelligence is kind of a new theme we're working on. And the big one is internet. So now the majority of Studio Suite is visible through a browser. And for our new users, I just want to do kind of a quick overview of some of the Studio Suite functionality. Um, the kind of the workflow that goes through. And it starts off in contacts where you've got clients and prospects and vendors. Oops, let me go back one. Um, starts off in, let me redraw this one more time. It starts off in contacts where we've got clients and prospects and vendors and staff, and we keep track of the emails, also groups of contacts, the job history for everybody, communications, and also any client specific rates that are related. And then contacts can also be resources, and another type of resource is rooms, where we track in all the different rooms, the outlets, the pictures of the rooms, the different rates, the equipment that's installed within that. And speaking of equipment, there's also an equipment module where we track your inventory, the barcodes of everything, maintenance packages of equipment, equipment depreciation, equipment rates, usage history, the revenue we're creating from the equipment as if we're renting it, and also collections of equipment, which is, if you've got 10 cameras of the same kind, and pools, which are kind of low value things like sandbags, where you might have 50 of them that you don't track individually. And then there's also services, which are the things that you do, maybe that aren't resource specific, like editing or compositing or deliveries or meals, things like that, creative fees. Those are services, and they also can have rates and also budget codes that correspond to them. And then speaking of rates, there's hourly, daily, weekly, client-specific rates, flat rates, project rates, rental style rates. Each one of them can have budget codes and account codes that correspond to your external accounting software. And each one can also track profit loss and also market rate to be able to compare what you charge versus what everybody else is charging in your area. And then there's budgets, and we still have the budgets module, but we're with this version more and more so building budget functionality into projects, which is coming up next. And so within budgets and projects, we've got the whole AICE, AICP budget templates. You can also build your own templates, and we can also export those out into Excel in kind of the standard formats. And then on into project, budgets turns into projects. And we've got kind of a hierarchy here where there's productions at the very top level, and then projects. And then within projects, there's groups of projects. Maybe you want to track all projects of a certain kind, do reporting on that. And then resource management, of course. This is where you set up your budget, your actual manage your profit loss, which means also expense versus charge. Check in and out of your stuff, any managing any discounts, project-wide discounts and also line item specific discounts. Also notifications about this project or events within that, and also conflict detection, of course, as well. And the calendar is completely new. We've started from the ground up on this. It seems every version of Studio Suite we redo the calendar, and this one by far is our best yet. All the standard views, day, week, month, Gantt view, agenda view, which is new, looking at events, projects, tasks. And there's also a two-way sync to Google Calendar and iCal. I'm going to show you this calendar a little bit, so stand by. And then, of course, as we're doing all this, we're building content in the library module where we track our digital assets, our physical assets, manage electronic delivery of those assets, Those assets can have barcodes so we can check them in and out, tracking the status, printing out receipts and release forms, labels if people are still doing labels, and also the history of each media asset. And the point of all this, of course, is to make some money. So we've got a nice invoicing module with full reporting, exporting out the QuickBooks MYOB email that invoices out the PDF manager, discounts, late fees, commissions, and all that stuff. And another big hallmark of Studio Suite is the way it integrates with other applications that you're working with. So, Pro Tools, Final Cut, Logic, Adobe Creative Suite. We can link to all those files in a limited way to Microsoft Office and Outlook, QuickBooks. Uh, Obviously, accessibility on iPhone and iPad that we're going to get to. Tracking in FedEx, synchronization with address book, iCal, SMS messaging, notifications, and so on. So we think that's pretty neat. And for the new folks, I want to do just another perspective on our module structure. So what I'm going to show you in a minute will make a little bit more sense. I think all of you existing users have seen this before, so my apologies for that, but maybe a good review for you as well. So it all starts off with the production, and the production is kind of equates to a season of a TV show, a feature film, a large multi-phase project. And of course, you can have a bunch of productions going on at one time. And within each production, you'll have a project, or maybe multiple projects more likely, which equate to something like the episode of a TV show, or one large aspect of a film, like just pre production, or shooting, or editing, or mixing, or a reel of film. Just mainly it's one phase of a large project. And so you can handle that a bunch of different ways. And of course, one production can have multiple projects going on, and projects can also stand alone. You don't have to have a production to contain a project. Inside a project, you've got what we call events, and you can have a bunch of events within a project, and events can also stand alone by themselves. And when we say what is an event, that is when we take any of our resources coming from the rooms module, equipment module, contacts module, service module, or media inventory. Each of those resources can have rates, hourly rates, daily rates, weekly rates, client-specific rates, project-specific rates. And when we apply those resources with a rate to a date and a time, that's what we call an event. So you can see here I'm grabbing a room and a piece of equipment, putting a rate to it, putting a date to it, and those are events. And those events are what appear in the calendar. So everybody can see the calendar, and we can slide stuff around. And what's in the calendar can also be two-way synced to Google Calendar and iCal, and visible on mobile devices. And those calendar items can also be what are sent out to your invoice. And that's obviously what we're all trying to do, is make some money. And those invoices can be sent out to any third-party accounting software like QuickBooks and MYOB and so forth. And the point of doing this also is to create content. So from the production module, projects module, and events, we can link media assets in the library module. And over the course of producing all that content, there are a number of tasks that need to be done. And so there's a tasks module. Um, and of course, this all links back to uh, the client who is giving us all of this information. And wouldn't it be great, excuse me, if all of this were accessible on all of your devices? And now with Studio Suite XI, it really is. Um, in previous versions of Studio Suite, you were probably used to seeing it here run in FileMaker Pro. And with Studio Suite X, we introduced accessibility on the iPad and iPhone. And with XI, you're probably gathering at this point that it's accessible in a browser. So on this next screen, there's kind of a point. It looks a little show-offy, but these are a list of some of our users. But really, what I want to do, what you take away from this is workflow. So when you look at, or you consider the workflow of Sony or Microsoft versus Crawford versus Off Hollywood versus Big Shoulders in Chicago versus Google, YouTube, or Universal or NASA all across the top there, they've all got very, very different workflows. They have different needs. They need different customizations. And kind of the hallmark of Studio Suite is that it's extremely adaptable, extremely customizable by yourselves or by us with our help to get it to do exactly what you need it to do. And so that's one of the things that we're proudest of. For example, in this new web interface that we're building, um, if you want to modify that, you can do it in FileMaker Pro, go into layout mode, add a field, delete a field, and suddenly your browser is going to refresh with that new interface. So before I get into the actual software demo, I know what's on everybody's mind is when is this going to be available. So I'm just going to give you that right away. It's going to be by the end of June. Pricing is to be determined. And any purchase between now and actually between the start of NAB and now, you're going to get a free update to SSXI. So you'll get Student Suite X now and XI when it's ready. And we have a special bonus for everybody that's attending this webinar. Um, if you purchase your Stu Suite X/XI before April 30th, you're going to get a 20% discount. So you've got about a week to go. And hopefully by the end of our presentation here, I will convince you that you should do that. Let's see, I'm getting some comments on my volume. Should I turn up let me see if I can do that. Voice is really low. Stand by. All right, so I'm going to hide this and this and get into Student Suite, and I'm going to see if I can turn up my voice very quickly here. Stand by. Input. Boop, doop, doop. Looks like it's up all the way. Sorry about that. Maybe, hopefully you can just turn up your computer. So I've got my screen. Give me one sec to go back here. Okay, so I've got my screen kind of in a large resolution here. Because I'm going to show you a little trick. But before I do that, you'll notice our interface. We've kind of lightened up the whole thing. All of you existing users, it used to be very kind of dark and overbearing. So we've wanted to improve that, make it a little bit more enjoyable to look at. But the big thing, I'm going to just drag this out of the way here. And you'll see in the background, I'm running Chrome, and it looks pretty much exactly the same. So this is kind of neat. I'm going to put a little note in my FileMaker window here. I'm just going to put hi, and I hit enter, and then right away it's going to appear in my browser interface. I didn't have to do anything for that to happen, and then I'm going to, in my browser, write hi back, hit return, and then we're going to just magically see it appear over here in FileMaker. And what's also going on is I've got this showing up on my iPad and my iPhone. So I'm picking up my iPad right now, and you can't see me do that, but honest I am. And I'm going to backspace through the hi back, and I'm going to type hi from iPad. Excuse my spelling as I do this, and I'm going to move this stuff out of the way so we can see it. And as soon as I submit that, how do I do that? I go like this. We're going to see what I've just done on my iPad appear on the web browser and also over here. So that's pretty impressive if you're a technology geek to be able to get all that stuff to happen so quickly and have it appear in so many different places. So with that kind of background of knowing that everything that we do in one place is automatically going to show up everywhere else, I'm going to kind of proceed on to the rest of the demo. Let me say, I've got a question here. What if you already have Studio X? There will be an upgrade price for that. Answering somebody's question here. We haven't determined the pricing yet. Obviously, we will be able to import your data. And as soon as we are shipping, we'll have all the pricing information available for you to review. So I'm going to get into a little bit of what's new in Studio Suite XI. And to do that, I'm just going to, so you don't have to squint, I'm going to open up our resolution in a little bit, zoom in. Hopefully that's a little bigger for everybody. If that looks weird on anybody's screen, somebody please let me know. So the new interface, we saw how there's this interactivity between everything. We've seen the new lighter appearance of everything. This is a budget module. This is actual. I'm just going to find all these records and zoom back a little bit through here and see how some of this looks. And for some of you older users, Studio Suite 8 and 9, you're also going to see that this is just wickedly fast compared to what it used to be. So that's a really important feature. So I'm going to go back to main menu, and then from there just jump into calendar, because this is the other biggest, newest thing that we've got going on. And here it is. There's a bunch of different things going on here. Here is basically the linear week view that many of you are probably used to. Excuse me. What's visible here is governed by preset. So if I want to just look at my equipment, this is going to be some of the equipment that I'm looking at. turn off these things. So I've just got a couple pieces of equipment here. If I zoom out to my week view, I can see how they're allocated. If I want to look at the month for all of my equipment, I can see when each piece of equipment is used within that month period. There's also a traditional view, so if you're more comfortable with looking at a traditional month calendar, of course, we got that as well. Here's a week view. And this looks more like, let me go back to a better preset here. Let me go to the Great Set preset. Um, so this traditional calendar looks more like what you might see on Google or iCal or something like that, which of course we do have the two-way sync for. And another view is agenda. A lot of people have asked for this. So if I go into a week-long agenda, we can see how everything's allocated for the given days. So I'm going to go back to my timeline view, into my week view, point out a couple other things. So it used to be that daily notes, those things that we put in at the main menu, it says hi and hi from iPad. I'm going to turn those on. So now this is flexible. It didn't used to be. So you can have that appear or not appear. So here's today. And then also tasks we had a separate area for in the old calendar, but now we can turn those on and off if we like. And also projects. So I'm going to go look at my projects view. And so down here, this has been what a lot of people have been asking us for. So now instead of resources on the left side, what we're seeing is a list of different projects. Um, and so this project here called This Is That, we can see has a ton of resources. In fact, if we want to look into Tuesday, we can see all the stuff that's going on the This Is That project. So this is a really nice view. And at the moment, we're not able to edit from this view, but by the time we're shipping, we will be able to. So we have total control over the visibility of events and notes and tasks. And then if I want to solo something, I can just click on events, and that's just going to hide the other items and show me what I'm looking at. So let's book something. Let's go into the day view, let's say for Thursday today. I'm just going to book on Studio B at 9:30, drag that out to wherever I want it to be. Also, that red bar you can see across the top, down the middle, I should say, is right now. Oh, I should also mention the red outlines for new customers. That means there's a conflict, and there's a Bobby Jones conflict. He's double booked right now, and of course I can just resolve that by uh, dragging stuff around. I could reassign things to different resources that way as well. And what that should be doing is refreshing my calendar and making that go away. Let's see if this will do that. Well, it should be. This is beta software. By the time it's shipping, that'll those red outlines will go away. So I've gone ahead and selected Studio B from the calendar. I'm going to go ahead and book this as a project, and I'm going to create a new project. And this is a probably a little bit review for existing customers, but here's my project picker, and just so everybody can see, I'm just going to type a couple letters here. And this is going to reduce my list. And let's pick Stephen Stills as a client. I'm going to do a project name of webinar. Excuse my typing as I go. Only the blue fields are required at this point, so I could hit next and proceed on. But I could also go ahead and put in, who my producer is going to be, my director. Their phone numbers and emails pop in automatically. I could drop some notes in about this project with a date timestamp. And if I wanted to add something else to this project, maybe a piece of equipment from here, maybe I'm on the phone with the client and they say they need an amplifier. So I can do that from here. And one thing I didn't mention is that when I selected the client, it's showing me the aging for that client as well, so I can see how much they owe. There's some insurance information down here. I can set up a rate card for this project if they're an educational client or a corporate client or an in-house client. And that way it'll bring in all the appropriate rates that go along with them. And another aspect to Student Suite is you can have several internal companies. So if this particular project is, say, Abbey Road Studios, it's going to have all the appropriate information for that particular studio. So I'm just going to hit next on there, and that's going to go ahead and create our project for us. And it's telling me that I've got conflicts for stuff I didn't even schedule. So let's see what's going on with that. So this is going to bring us into our projects module. And so here on my webinar project, I can see that Studio B has a bunch of child items. So we can just create these packages, one of which is this TDK DVD, also this camera number 6. And I've got it set up so that whenever I book camera number 6, it subbooks all these other items. including there's the amplifier that I booked. So we can also see that it's dropped in all the default prices for all these things. And for Studio B, apparently the default rate is Studio A daily, but I can click on that and it's giving me a list of all the available rates for Studio B, and I can broaden that to show everything within the category called rooms. So this is a much bigger list. It looks like I don't actually have a rate for Studio B, so I'm just going to pick the Studio A hourly rate. And I don't know if you saw there, but it changed the time from calculating a day as one to a time of four at a price of 100. And of course, I can override these if I want to say, well, I'm only going to charge you for 3 hours, even though it cost me four. I can do that. And those changes show up in blue, so we can see we've altered that from whatever the default rate is. And I can also change the price for you. Let's make it $90. And you can also see that uh, has showed up in blue, so everybody knows that it's been defaulted from whatever the project is. So that project, the one we're looking at here, I created from the calendar, and of course we can see it right there showing up in the calendar. And of course, as I hover over these, I can see the tooltips. But I want to show another way to create the projects, and that is from within the projects module itself. But actually, I'm going to backtrack, and I'm going to create a production this time. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got a ton of different customers. They all have different workflows. This time I'm going to start a project from the concept of a production. So I'll go to productions and I'm going to create a new one. Click the new button there. I get the same client picker. Let's say Jane Dobson is the client. There's the aging. I'm going to call this webinar production. And I could go ahead and put the people in here if I want to. Any notes that I might have, blah, 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 blah. And I hit next. Oh yeah, I need a production type. Call this a film. And we'll go in progress for the status. So I'll hit next. Oh, it's giving me a credit limit for the client. I'm just going to hit OK. Ignore that. So here I am on a big blank production. And I'm going to create a new project. And this will be called Web Prod 1. This could be, real one. It could be a location one. It could be episode one. It could be called the shoot. It could be called the edit, the mix, the finishing. This project could be called anything we want. So notice it's inherited all the client and project information. I'm going to create this as a budget instead of an actual. When we did it from the calendar, we created it as an actual, but now we're more theoretical. We're doing kind of a budget kind of project. So I'm going to hit next. And here I am on my blank project. And I'm going to start adding items to it. So I click Add Items. And here is a list of all of the items. And we can filter these by category. I'm just going to filter, even though AICE is at the top of my alphabetical list, I filtered that to just show that. So I'm doing this to basically show you that we've got all of the AICE items in here. And if I click one of these parent items, it's going to sub-book. As I hover over that, you can see all the child items that come in with that. And so just by booking this one thing, it's going to create all of those items. And I could also maybe go look at my rooms. Maybe I know specifically at this point that I want to book some of my spaces. And these little exclamation marks are showing me that those items are already booked on those days. And in fact, if I hover over them, it'll show me what they're booked on. So I know if I can steal from there or not. And look, Studio B, if I hover that, it's showing me the webinar project right there that we just booked. So I'm not going to try to book that. Maybe some people. I'm going to go down to people. Here's all of my people. And really what I do is filter this to show me people that are cameramen. And those are my available cameramen. So I'm going to pick Ronald. And I could pick a rate if he had one. Looks like he doesn't have one. So I'm going to go ahead and add these to the project. And I booked all these on April 24th. I could have cleared those dates out or clicked this button here, add to project without dates. But in this case, they've all come in with dates. No big deal. And we can see that it's also automatically built in my charge. Now I've got a little function here to quickly populate all of these numbers so I don't have to do it right in front of you and make you all wait. So just stand by while I come here and I click this button. And this is going to just populate all of those prices for me. I'm going to come back to my project, go to my budget view, and boom, there I've got a whole bunch of numbers. So let's say that I'm going to now capture this as a PDF. I'm going to email this to my client, and it's going to create a PDF of our view, and I can email that directly out of Studio Suite or through uh, my email client, whatever that is. I'm just going to hit cancel. So now that's going to go. Oh, here it comes. It's going to try to email it. I'm going to hit cancel on that because I don't really want it to go. And maybe the client's going to come back and say, well, okay, we agree to 250 for this, and this is we only want to pay 500 for this. They never want to pay you more, do they? So I've made all these changes from whatever my default prices are. And then if I go, notice I'm in my budget column. I'm going to look at my actual column. There's nothing there. So I'm going to go back to my budget. And by the way, we're looking at the charges. If I want to go look at my expenses, it's popped in some information here too. And I could also, I'm just going to randomly type some numbers in here. My little data generator doesn't type in expenses. It thinks everything is free. So those are going to be my expenses on those various services. So now I'm going to hit send all to actual, and I'm going to hit yes, I want to do that. And so basically it's going to clone all of my budget items over to my actual site. And as it's doing that, of course, it's checking for conflicts and so forth to make sure that everything is going to be okay. And it's asking me if I want to keep the entered budget values, which are those blue ones that we overrode, or clear them to allow for adjustments later. Well, I'm going to keep them because that's what we kind of all agreed to on the budget. And it's going to come in there. And so here it is. So what I'm going to do again is put in some random numbers. So just stand by. And rather than retype a whole bunch of numbers, I'm going to go click this button right here. And this is going to populate a bunch of different prices so we don't have to type it. And what that's going to do is puts a bunch of different numbers in here because maybe this is going to reflect what actually happened. Maybe if we're billing by the day or by the week or something like that, turns into a much bigger project. And then maybe for any one of these messenger services, I'm going to add a child item of a service called shipping. And that's going to put in a new line item underneath messenger services right there, and it's going to come in with a price. And maybe we have a couple of those. Let me find something else. Casting director. Maybe we have a couple different of those. So I'm going to add a child item for casting director. I'm going to look for people here. Alan Assistant, who Alan Assistant is an actress and also a casting director, multi-talented. All right, so we'll put him in there. And then let's see, Ronald Tarkington. Let's see, he's a cameraman, so let's say he's going to bring along with him his piece of equipment, his camera. So I'm going to go down here and go to cameras, and let's say we've got a camera number 3 there. So a number of these items probably brought in their prices, and we didn't have those on our budget. Some for the camera, I'm going to say it's $100. So because we had budget charges and budget expenses. And now on the actual side, we have budget charges and expenses. That means I can go look at my difference view. And lo and behold, I've got a bunch of differences. So I was going to charge 9,850. Now I'm now charging 12,635, which means a difference of 2785 or a 28.27% margin. Now I didn't have to whip out any spreadsheets or calculators. It's all there. So that makes my life easy. Somebody asked a minute ago if the Planet Perfect post homepage was flexible, meaning can we move stuff around? Yeah, that's one of the coolest parts about Studio Suite. And one thing that I didn't mention that I usually do is that the buttons that are appearing here um, are user specifiable. That's a word. So per user, maybe this is the receptionist's main menu. Maybe this is the tech guy's main menu, and maybe this is the editor engineer's main menu. So they're only going to see the stuff they need to see, which is important. And then over here on these events, maybe we want to filter it to only show information that I care about. So if I'm Alan Assistant, the actress slash casting director, here's my event, and of course I can edit it from here. And maybe I will say that this is now complete. And I'm going to put some notes in there, blah, 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 blah. and I'm going to save those changes. Now, because I saved that change on that one thing, it's asking me if I want to apply that to everything else. I'm going to click no. So I got a little bit off my demo game there answering that question, but I just did want to answer that. And maybe what he was really asking, just maybe I should finish that. I'm going to go into layout mode, and maybe you guys, a particular customer doesn't need tasks. So you can actually go in and delete that whole section from your main menu, and it's gone, and it's going to appear because we've got separate layouts for the iPad, the iPhone, and your browser interface. You can build unique ones for each one. So I'm going to not save that. I have to quickly do not save button. So there we go. So keep the questions coming. I'm going to kind of ramble on into some of the other new features of Studio Suite X. So projects. And for those that are new, I would like to direct your attention. There is a video up on our site that goes over Studio Suite X in general. It's about 80 minutes long. So for our existing customers that are seeing what's new here, I don't want to occupy too much time with of theirs with old existing features. So there is that video on our site if you want to check that out. So some other new features. I showed you the AICE implementation. I want to look at our gear tool here for a second. We've added a couple things here. The ability to insert items and also insert blank rows and insert just text. So maybe you just want to be able to put some headers in there. And to do this, we actually need to be in creation order. So maybe I want to put underneath per diems, I'm just going to insert a blank row because I want to have a space in there for some particular reason. So there's going to be a blank row in there in a second. Maybe not. Oh, showed up down here. Okay, so beta software. But it would be there, and we'd be able to do other things like um, uh, insert an actual item. So if I click item, I'm thinking that might not work either. Yeah, that's not going to work. Oh, it does work. Okay, so if I go to back up the babies. All right, let's do backup babies. So that should be in here now as a new item somewhere. Anyway, so that's in progress as we can see. And operators is new for some users as well. So if I go down to the camera, maybe I want to say that the operator of the camera is Molly. So I'm going to pick Molly. And so now we can see in parentheses after the camera that Molly is the operator. So operators is something that we introduced in Studio Suite 10.1. We didn't make too much noise about it, but it's actually a pretty great new feature because we can also apply operators to rooms and any of the other kind of stuff that we're doing. And that works with all of the reporting as well. Call sheets. So let's go look at call sheets. This also came out in 10.1. So I'm going to hit a new one, and I'm going to say this is the date of this call sheet. And so here is your kind of standard call sheet. I'm going to drop in a new scene here and type whatever it is that we're doing. Type the scene. Oh, yeah, call time is going to be, 7 a.m., that kind of thing. Put in some cast members here, any notes that go along with it, blah, 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 blah. And obviously we get directors, editors, engineers, the people that we had assigned earlier. Um, Leave, crew call, lunch, shooting call, sunrise, sunset, wrap time, all that stuff. We could pop in the weather here if we wanted. Um, these are different cast folks down here. So had I defined them first, they would be in my cast list above. Excuse my typing. So now if I go here, there's the casting person that I just did. They're going to be in that scene. So call sheets. We like that. Another new feature is, oh, I probably did this without even calling too much attention to it. In every version of Studio Suite prior to this, if you wanted to change something, you would click on it and it would open up the edit event window. But now you can just edit something right here. And because I changed one thing, it's going to ask me if I want to change everything else. I'm going to say no. And this also applies to statuses. So maybe I just want to say that this item is now uh, complete. I can do that right from here without having to open up the edit event window every single time I want to change a status of something. So now that item is complete. We added a couple more sorts here. So maybe I would like to sort by status. And this is great for our equipment rental people. Maybe they want to check everything in and out, um, and have only the things that are still checked out appear. Maybe they want to sort it by price. So the most expensive stuff is at the top. Um, Seems to not be working at the moment. So that should be there. And then also filtering. So maybe you want to filter by status to only show the items that are complete, which is kind of neat also. So what else do we have? We did operators, quick log. I think you're going to like this. So we used to have a quick log module, but we've completely rebuilt it. It's a lot better. So I'm going to click on this. So over on the left side, we've got a list of all of our items. Over on the right side, a list of all of our projects, and I'm just going to type WEB. And so here, this is going to show us our webinar uh, project that we just created. So it knows it's logged in as me. So I'm just going to click the Add Me button, and it added me, Joel Stoner, to this project. Status confirmed. I could drop in my action of what it is that I'm doing. I'm compositing. But I could get fancy here. Maybe I want to add some equipment to this project, 500-watt big time light to this project as well. And I forgot to add that to the web demo project I did. So basically, we can add stuff to multiple projects all from the same view. So I've got the webinar project, the web demo, and let me do one called test. I know I have 1,000 test projects in here. So I'm going to add a LTO, an Ampeg LTO, to the project called Virginia Beach. So I do that. I hit OK, and it's going to very quickly, find my conflicts, and apply all those things. Excuse me, to all those projects. And so if I come into the one called webinar and I clear my filter, we're going to see all those items appear. So that's been much easier to deal with going forward. I think this was the one that was just a budget. Where is everybody? Clear. Filter. Okay, there we go. So I just added Joel Stone. I had it filtered by the category of complete, which is why it didn't show up. So there's Joel Stoner that I added from there. So for the ability of your staff to be able to add themselves kind of in a timesheet kind of way to different projects, Quick Log is very nice. And I'm going to jump over to some of the web functionality for a second. We've added that to our Web Glancer product. So for those that aren't familiar, Web Glancer is something that comes along with any network version of Studio Suite, and it's read-only, and it provides read-only access to contacts, calendar, tasks, library, and we're adding to that Quick Log, meaning, and for the case of Quick Log, it's actually not going to be read-only. And so essentially what we're doing is opening up through a browser all of your crew and freelancers to be able to add themselves to multiple projects. So if I go to, where are we, people, and I type in my webinar project again, I'm going to say I am Bernard Thompson, and I'm going to go down to my webinar, and I'm adding Bernard to the webinar. And let's say Bobby Jones is also going to get added to that as well. So now if I hit OK, from a browser interface for free, these guys are now just adding themselves to those projects. So let's go check it out back into FileMaker, main menu. That was the webinar projects. Just make sure I'm going to the right place. Webinar, where are we? Webinar, back one. Here we are. So there's Bernard Thompson and Bobby Jones added into the projects. And so these guys notice these guys don't have the ability to specify their rate. Basically just their times, their status. They can override the time based on, they don't have to put in, I began at 9:15 and ended at 9:45. They can just put in 0.5, and also the action and whatever notes they have. So we've added editable quick log to the Web Glancer product, and I think that is a really nice new feature for everybody. I also wanted to show you on this Web Glancer our new calendar. The old one used to be kind of a picture of our linear week view. But on this one, we've added our really nice new calendar to the read-only Web Glancer. And again, Web Glancer is free. Everybody can look at it. There's no extra charge for it. You have 100 people looking at this. So if we look in here, I forget what day we booked our project on. we should be able to see all of that stuff here that we just booked. Where was that? That was Studio B on the 24th. I probably just need to refresh this. If I go out and come back in, we'll see that appear here. Let me do that. Boom. Huh, okay, so maybe it's not there yet. It will. But anyway, this is a full read-only calendar. You'll notice it's wicked fast also. So that's pretty good. Um, what else on WebGlancer? WebGlancer, the mobile version. I think most of you've seen. It's read-only on mobile devices. We don't have WebGlancer. Sorry, QuickLog on here yet. I think we're going to add it based on feedback from everybody that we've shown this to. They're like, we want that. So we're going to try to get to that. And web request, in case you don't know, is basically a client-facing form for clients to be able to fill out what they would like to book from your studio. So if they pick rooms, I want in building one, I need studio one on a particular date and time. They can add new items. They can add new services. Let's go down to, I don't know, services. Pick whatever item is. They need some catering, naturally, date, time. So they submit that as a request. It shows up in Studio Suite as a new web request. A given person, a specified person, will receive that email, and they will be able to grant or deny that request and then turn that into a Studio Suite project. Okay, quick log projects. Contain. I'm looking at my list of features here. Sorry. Um, Price target. So some of our customers want to be able to know how far off they are from a target. So let's say their budget for this was $1,000. They just want a simple number. They don't want to deal with the budget side of that. So here, if we put in $1,000, we can see that the total of this is 520, and we've got 480 left. That's kind of a minor feature, but nice for some people. Um, for our users that have a ton of equipment and they're starting to put in equipment really quickly and rates very quickly, we've added a quick rate area to be able to quickly put in a lot of different rates. We can just scroll through our equipment and add rates this way without having to pop a screen every time you create a new rate for a new item. Um, and speaking of that, I didn't mention this yet. One of the new interface standards in XI is this little plus sign. You may recall in older systems, we had a button here that said add. Now we just have this little more uh, less noisy plus button. So here's how you would create a rate, and nothing much new there. So I'll just hit continue. Backing up. One thing that's not done in the program yet is the check-in and check-out of equipment by on iOS devices. So we're going to be using the camera on your iOS device to scan a barcode. And then if you scan it twice within, say, 5 seconds, definable by you, it's going to ask you if you want to file a report on that piece and even allow you to use the iOS camera to take a picture of any damages, change the status of it to damaged, and maybe some other notes back on the equipment. So that's coming up in Studio Suite XI. And we're also going to be adding notifications to equipment maintenance. So in that scenario where something does break, you'll be able to say, send a notification to the guy that needs to know that so he can fix it. Let's see, capture to PDF. Oh, I don't know. I mentioned this briefly, but I didn't actually do it. So I'm going to show you this one. So I'm going to do capture as PDF. As we all know, when we're going through the budget process of making all these different proposals, sometimes you have to do multiple. So we've got this thing here, capture as PDF. And what that's going to do is basically make a PDF of what I've got there and pre-attach it to the attach an FTP tab. And so here I've got it accessible, and I can go look at it. You know what, I'm having a problem with my particular PDF application at the moment, so I can't. Um, but this basically now we could have multiple references of a particular budget file to be able to see that. And while I'm on the attach tab, I'd like to show you something else new. This is one of the bigger new features. I'm going to go into contacts because that's where it's done the best. And you may recall that there was a bunch of big buttons across the top to allow you to insert pictures or sounds or files or folders. So now we've just got this little plus button and we can pick what kind of thing we want. So if I pick a file, Um, I can right click on here to insert a file. It's going to bring up my Finder, and it's going to bring in maybe this thing right here, and I hit OK. So what's just happened in the previous versions of Studio Suite, it was basically storing a path to where that file is on my desktop. And if anybody else needed to have access to this, they couldn't because my laptop was on the plane folded up and they didn't have access to that. So now what we're doing with these is we're using FileMaker's remote containers technology. And what it just did actually is it moved this file from my laptop to a specified location on the server. Didn't move it, copied it. Um, and now everybody's got access to it. So if anybody wants to click on this, it's going to give them the option to export this file to their own desktop and make any changes to it. So we've kind of changed that mechanism around, and it's a lot more flexible. And I'm going to try something on my iOS device just to give you a little tease of something here. So on the right side, we're looking at my phone. I'm going to click on Contacts. And I'm going to go to the Attach tab where I am. And you can see I've already got two little signatures there, but this is something that we're working on. So I'm going to click on the plus sign again. And we'll hit OK on that. Should have been there from before. And try to create a new contact, a new signature basically. So let me go to new contact. Let's go to Joe Producer, and I'm going to go to Attach and hit the little plus thing, and I'm going to say File, and this time I'm going to, all right, I'll replace that signature with this one, and I'm going to go to Rotate, and I can just say Hi. That's my bad signature. And so now that's going to get saved into back to the server. And I've also got a visual reference of that. And so what we're going to be doing is applying this onto purchase orders as well. Um, so that's pretty neat. Signatures into work orders and purchase orders. Okay, I'm going to hide those guys. Next feature is filtering. I showed you filtering by resource. I also want to show you filtering by project. So if I only want to show the events that are on our webinar today, I can filter and only show that because sometimes that would be nice to do. Okay, I think that's about it for some of the new features. Of course, I want to underscore the big ones, which are accessibility in a browser. Let's go back to here. Where I can see and do everything that we've just done. Yeah, why don't I show you the project that we just created? So I'm going to go into our projects module, and I'm going to go find the webinar project that we put together from here. And so there's one of the ones that we did. I'm just going to go back a couple. Here's webinar right there. And if you remember, I added Bernard Thompson and Bobby Jones. Maybe I want to add some new things to this. I want to do this from the browser interface. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to add a best boy and a camera assistant just by clicking on these items. With the web interface, you have to be a little bit more deliberate when you click them. So I'm going to go ahead and add to project. And we're going to see best boy and camera assistant appear down at the bottom of my project. It's reminding me again that we've got conflicts. And down at the bottom, we're going to see those new items. And so I'll take this moment to say that the browser interface, we're using FileMaker's WebDirect technology. It's their first release of this technology. There it is, Camera Assistant in Best Boy. We're really impressed with what they've been able to do and what we've been able to do with that, but it is their first release. But still, you just saw me add stuff to a project. We've got the calendar here as well. So who is this intended for? Your your high volume schedulers are not necessarily going to want to use the browser interface to book your projects into. But here we're in the browser interface, and here is our webinar project in our new calendar. Saying five things at once here. Sorry about that. So this interface is really designed for when you're at home. You need to make some changes. You want to look at what's going on. Maybe for some of your freelancers to be able to get in, you don't want to have to deal with getting an instance of FileMaker Pro installed on their computer. And so this is going to make it much more accessible and flexible to be able to deploy Studio Suite not just to your staff and crew, but to all of the freelancers you might work with. And of course, they would all have unique usernames and passwords, which you could turn on or off as needed to give them access. So this has been kind of a very random demo because I'm going back and forth between um, features that are new in XI and features that have been there for a while. So I apologize for that. I'm going to go look at some questions to see if there are any that I can answer. Now would be a good time to post any questions that you might still have. Let me see. Must a Mac-based company use FileMaker Pro Advanced in order to use Studio X? The answer is no. You can use a regular FileMaker Pro to use X, and of course, for a lot of your users, they can just use the browser to access it. I will say though that to use this browser functionality, you do need FileMaker Server, and with the release of FileMaker 13, there's no more Server Advanced. It's just FileMaker Server, and the ability to access uh, any FileMaker file, whether it's Studio Suite or not, from your server is now kind of measured at the server, counted and billed for at the server with something they call server concurrencies. So basically, the idea is if you're accessing the server with FileMaker Pro, that's free because you bought FileMaker Pro. But if you're accessing it with a browser or with iOS device, obviously browsers are free. FileMaker Go on a browser, FileMaker Go on iOS is free. So they're charging for these concurrencies at the FileMaker server. And those are available in packs of 5 from us or from FileMaker for $500. Sorry, $900. Excuse me, $900 for a pack of 5 concurrencies to get access to the browser. So that was all an answer to that question. Um, can StuSuite X easily receive iCal and address book info, and vice versa? Yeah. So let me go back to Studio Suite for that. I'm going to go into Contacts. I'm going to go to our detail view. If I go to our special menu and I go down to address book, we can pull from and update address book and refresh this record from address book. So this requires a third-party plugin. I think it's less than 50 bucks. And the address book sync is kind of two-way, but it's not like a live sync. So you've got to be conscious of deciding when you're going to send or push or pull data from there. Now the iCal sync, similar to our Google sync, is live. In fact, I'm going to go into my Google Calendar. From here, I'm going to fast forward to April 24th, and if I'm lucky, our project will be here. Grading Suite, Ronald Tarkington, Studio B. Studio B turned on. Okay, so this isn't working at the moment, but what we should see here is all of the stuff that we just booked. Is this the right one? Um, this is obviously our development version, so sometimes it breaks, as you've seen. So the iCal and Google Sync are automatic, so you don't have to do anything. They will just keep working. Let me continue to look at this question. Can Studio Suite X attach or sync with mail emails with a particular client and or a project? Yeah, so attach, yeah, basically you would be able to, copy paste the text from an email, stick it into a contact communication record. We don't display or really sync with email for a number of reasons. One is that becomes kind of a security nightmare, and also could potentially spam nightmare because we'd have to figure out which emails are supposed to come into what projects and be visible by who. So you may have people accessing a project that shouldn't see certain emails and so forth, and maybe emails that aren't even relevant to anybody coming in and linking to places that they shouldn't. So we've just decided to kind of skip that for now until we can come up with a better answer on that topic. So copy paste is really the best mechanism. And actually, on that topic, let me go back to something here. Notes. Um, we have added the ability to create communications within projects. Um, and so this is basically going to create an email for this and send it directly out of Studio Suite. If you just want to send an email relevant to this project, and actually, I think that this eventually will be able to receive emails in response to this one back within this project. Someone else is working on this particular feature, but let's say it's underway. Next question: Are there licenses offered that would allow some people a view-only calendar? Yes. In fact, that is the Web Glancer product that is included for free. Um, and so that's basically going to present this calendar, and they would be able to see it, and this would be accessible in a browser. And if you wanted to get into trying to govern which details, that'd probably be something that we'd want to get into on a custom basis to be able to determine some of that information. Next question: Is there an area to add general ledger codes for costs that could also translate onto invoices? Absolutely. So I'm going to go into main menu, and then I'm just going to go to rooms for a second. And I'm going to go look at Studio A. And then within Studio A, I'm going to go look at rates. So for Studio A, and this could be any resource. This could be a person, this is a room, this could be a piece of equipment, this could be a service that you provide called graphics. But this one's called Studio A, and I'm going to go look at this Studio A hourly rate. And so we can see from here external accounting details, and this is where you would put your GL codes. And this is where you put the charge. I'm charging $100 an hour and my expense. So also note that we can cross apply these. So maybe I'm going to charge $1,000 a day for this, but I have to pay for this guy or this thing by the hour, and maybe we pay him $20 an hour. And so this is going to be able to handle that kind of cross applicable math. And of course, when we have an occurrence of Studio A hourly on an invoice, it's going to carry with it the GL codes that go along with it. And then when we have our invoice, um, actually, I never did that. Let me go back to our webinar and make an invoice. So here is our project, webinar production one. Select all for invoice. It's going to go check the checkboxes that have rates, and I'm going to shift click on this, which is going to go check all of these items. Then I go invoice selected items. At least one event still needs to have time or quantity entered. All right, so we'll put that in here. 3 and 4 and invoice selected items. All right, let's just deselect those items. Hide that guy. So this is the hide feature, obviously. I think that should be everybody. Invoice selected items. Call that a final invoice. So this is basically going to take a little clone of all of those items and put them into an invoice. And if I click on any one of these, let me find Alan Assistant. We're going to see all of those GL codes right here. So that's the accounting account number and class and so forth that would then be able to get exported out into your accounting system. Let's see. Next question. Is there, on the employee quick log, is there an easy place to view and export accumulated hours across weeks and projects so I can track and pay? Definitely. So a couple places. One is reporting. So if I go into the events module, which is where we've got all of our reports, um, here's a bunch of different reports that we have available, including, of course, an employee report. And I'm going to summarize this. I've got some choices here by project, by day, or by item. So I'm going to do by project. And I can pick a category of people and a single employee if I like, or all employees. And I mentioned earlier operators. So anybody that is an operator in a room or operator of a camera or something like that, they will be able to um, be included in the report as well. So I'm going to do this month. And notice we can export these as well. So I'm going to hit print, continue, and coming up any second here. Okay, and here we are broken down by employee. And so there's Alex. We can see all of the projects that he's worked on and the hours and the overtime and the total charges and everything like that. So there's that. And then there's a bunch of reports here. Actually, I'm going to do this by item name. Try this again. see if I get a different view on this. Okay, so here is all of the guys, a slightly different view, essentially. Alex has worked on all these different projects, and here's the total of his hours. Andy Engineers worked on these projects, total of his hours, total of the dollars right there. So there's another way to look at this, which is in the employee schedule module. So I'm going to go over there, employee schedules. And so here's Eddie Editor. Basically, we can find anybody we want to. I'm going to find Eddie Editor. And I can also put in a date range. I'm going to put in the whole month of April. So here's everything that Eddie has done the month of April. The top row of each of these is the scheduled hours. The bottom row is the actual hours. And we see the difference between what was scheduled and what was actual. And within those scheduled hours, what the utilization was. So if I go look at this particular day, April 7th, it's going to show me that he worked 23 hours, even though he's only scheduled to work 8 hours. And that's based on this project called Stop. And if I filter through the various different days, I can see on Tuesday, he worked on 2 ITV projects, one HSN project, and one project called This Is It. It's tracking the start and end times on each, the status, any notes along with it, and also the total hours, 23 and a half hours, or 294% of the scheduled time that he's supposed to work. Also, from this employee view, we can see any tasks that they were supposed to do. Work orders, which is kind of another perspective of StudiSuite that I haven't touched on yet that I'm going to leave alone for now. And also any notes that may be particular on this day, like he came in late or was, playing with his phone the whole time, stuff like that. So that's employee area. Okay, moving on to another question. Will the files automatically sync if people change the downloaded copies? No. So if you download, if you attach a file to a project, then somebody else downloads it and they start making changes to it. They're going to have to re-upload that file along with notes, maybe some version information. This is Bob's version as of this date and time. And then it will, of course, show you sequentially all the dates and times of all the files that have been modified. So there's no way for it to automatically decide when to stick that file back up there. Somebody would, consciously want to say, okay, now I'm ready to send it back up and share it to everybody. So they would just basically reattach their new version of that file to share with everybody else. So would this be the equivalent to the internet version of old? Yes. So some of our existing users may remember in Studio Suite 9, we had something called Studio Suite Internet. And that was using FileMaker's instant web publishing technology, which they tried their best, we tried our best. It just really wasn't that great. So they went back to the drawing board and came up with this WebDirect technology. And it actually is pretty impressive, as I've shown you. And I've kind of given you kind of the speed view, but and it is version 1, but it's really pretty good. Um, moving on. Can Studio Suite make phone calls from within Studio Contact using the company's phone system? Almost. We do have Skype in here, so we could initiate a Skype session based on a phone call. But turns out that most computers these days don't even have modem ports on anymore, and that would be the way that we would need to dial into the phone system. Um, and as a result of that, FileMaker has discontinued their dial phone functionality. If that's a critical thing, I know that there are some, third-party plugins available that might be able to do that. So let us know if that's something that you need, and we could probably put something like that together for you. And speaking of that, looking back at that customer list I showed you a while ago, we do a lot of customization. Maybe Studio Suite for some users is 100% of what they need. For others, it's 90%. And so, we do a lot of customization for people to get it to be exactly what they need. And we can do it usually pretty quickly and cost effectively. Next question. What support for Androids is there? Okay, so probably kind of a sensitive topic. As you may know, FileMaker is owned by Apple, and they're in kind of a war with Android. I think that's going to be resolved soon. But until then, what's going to be accessible from Android is essentially our what we call WebGlancer Mobile. which is going to be read-only of contacts, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. Here's Andy Engineer, and let me kind of size this down to a mobile area. Uh, oops. So this is contacts, back home, and calendar. And this is going to be just a single day view of what's going on in a particular day. And by the way, here is our project. If I click on that, here is the webinar project that we put together. Um, and everything else that's scheduled on that day, and tasks. And I mentioned earlier that we're going to try to get into our quick log here as well, so people can log their time from the phone. Obviously, that would be pretty cool. Touching back on what I said a moment ago, with the Web Direct, FileMaker for the moment has specifically made access to Web Direct from any mobile device not compatible, mainly because they're doing a lot of really kind of high-end um, web stuff here, Ajax and jQuery and yada yada, that not all phone browsers are up to speed on. I think that's coming down the pike in the future to be accessible that way, but not yet. And they do not have a version of FileMaker Go for Android either. They do just for iOS. Is there a way to see the history of an item? Yeah, I think I showed that in our reporting. So actually, I'm going to show that a couple different ways. Starting just with equipment, because this is kind of a neat thing for our users that have a lot of equipment functionality. So this one I may as well just do in the web browser just to show that off a little bit. So we're in the Web Direct thing. I'm going to go to Event History for any given piece of equipment. Draws here. And what we're going to be able to see not only is every usage of it, um, the status of everything, all the different clients and projects that have been used, but also the total revenue it's created minus the cost, showing our total earnings on it. So another kind of important feature about this is what we call the Scan Manager. And this is an inventory tool, being able to track not usage of each piece of equipment, but presence of this piece of equipment. So we can see that on April 8th, Joel said it was in the room called Edit 1, and here's the notes that he put in. And then on February 12th, Camille said it was in the Calypster 1 room and could put any comment in there. And where the real value comes in is where you're going to be able to search for all equipment that was scanned since a certain date, or not scanned since a certain date, or not scanned ever. So that's kind of a history thing. And for the other history of equipment, I should say, for history of everything else, I'm going to go back into here to the events module within Pro and get into all of our reporting. So maybe we want to look at an item report. I'm going to go, maybe I want to see how my equipment is used, sorted by day within this month, and I'm going to print that out. So here's all of my items and all the projects and all the times they were used, and total charges, total expenses. And one quick note on this is we've actually got two places to do this kind of reporting, because this reporting is based on events, which comes from projects, which tends to be what actually happen. A lot of times when you're making an invoice, you need to dumb it way down for the client, and just have a single item, or maybe you want to show this amount of detail, but you've got to make a bunch of adjustments to the prices and the quantities and so forth. And so in that scenario, we've got a set of reporting that I just showed you from the project and events, and another set of information reporting based on the um, invoices. Okay, so we're a little bit over time here. I'm just going to try to wrap up a couple questions here. A couple more questions. Have you added Active Directory support for users? I think so. Uh, I should get a better answer on that, but we think we've done that. And in any case, it's going to have to be somewhat of a custom implementation for each user. But we've done some tests with that, and we've pretty sure we've got that worked out. But we'd really want to maybe have a guinea pig customer. Maybe you, David, could volunteer for that. And list view of projects. Let's see, example, list view of the projects, people, and time that an item is associated with. List view of the projects, people, and time. I'm not sure I understand what that means, but I think even just within this project here, we can see that this Neumann microphone is associated with the Avalon 737, which is associated with Studio A, which is associated with this project, associated with this client. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but I think so. Maybe the reporting ones did. Is there a fixed assets report? I think that means equipment of how much everything is worth. Yes, because we've obviously got equipment reports, but also depreciation schedules, which is kind of nice. So for this Avalon 737 item, I can see all of these items, and I've got a whole set of reporting here within equipment. I can sort and summarize these any number of ways, and I can even put in a depreciation thing. Let's see, let me put in here, starting from, come on, 2013 to 4/1 2014. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, and remember everything I print, every time I print, I can print kind of which internal company I'm posing as for this. And so here is a depreciation report showing the start value, the end value, and the accumulated depreciation. And obviously this is kind of some funny data to look at. We've only really got data here on these first few records, but hopefully that will show you what you're looking for. As people are starting to drop off, I'll just mention we would love to set up a private webinar with anybody that needs to have any specific questions further explored. Feel free to give us a call. And also don't forget our 20% discount on any orders by April 30th. I'm going to keep answering some questions. Is there a quick view of an equipment's history, including project use for person charge and date time? Yeah, I think I showed you that. One more time over on the event history of equipment. Here's the history of that item and the projects that were used. And if we wanted to jump to the Toronto project, we just click on that, and we should be here in the Toronto project, but we're not. That's how you would do that. How do sales CRM tracking features fit within Studio Suite X? Pretty well. So if I go into contacts, Joe Producer, I'm going to say that I want to call Joe Producer back on the 30th to remind him about our discount. And so because I'm Joel, that call has been scheduled to Joel. I can assign it to anybody else, but if I go look at my main menu, I'm going to have to scroll through a lot of calls. But there it is on April 30th. I'm going to call Joe Producer about the discount. And if I click on that, I could go ahead and put in, I called him, I convert to call, and it's been done and now removed from my list. So also maybe, so there it is, I called back discussing the discount. Maybe I want to call him right now. So I'm just going to click the I called button and talk about blah, 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 blah. So it's going to keep all of that history. So not only can I schedule calls for the future, I can track the calls that we've made. And if I were to go in and copy paste a bunch of text from an email, I'm just going to open up my email in the background. I'm going to grab some text, and I'm going to go into my emails and say subject email, and then I'm going to go into text and paste. So I basically just stuck the contents of an email, and here is that from a CRM perspective. So reminders for phone calls, tasks, and so forth, all that stuff is in there. Is there an application for the Android? I think I answered that a bit ago. Can I look at a schedule by department for the purpose of scheduling multiple days? For instance, look at the design department for a week or two period so I can see availability. Yeah, so if I go look at my calendar, we can set up presets. And presets are typically, show me all my rooms, show me all my equipment, show me all my people, that kind of thing. But you could also set up night crews and day crews and things like that, or even departments. So you could have a graphics department preset, an audio department preset, a video department preset, and so forth. And that would essentially be able to show you, pretend that this is the graphics department and Studio B is one of your resources, whether that's a person or a room. And I can see that Studio B is available for most of the week except Thursday. Um, so I hope that answers that question. Um, simply for the inventory manager. I think that was following up on an earlier question. Don't want to create a report for one item. Is there a way to see its usage history? Am I answering that, Kenya? I think I am with those equipment shots that I showed you. Pricing info can be determined how. Brian, I'm not sure if you're talking about product StuSuite pricing or uh, within StuSuite event, project pricing and things like that. Okay, Kenya says yes, that was good. StuSuite X pricing is what Brian's saying. For pricing info, give a call back and talk to myself or Alex at extension 1 for sales, and we'll get you all the quotes that you need. And remember, XI is going to be shipping sometime at the end of June. And any purchases between now and then, of course, will get a free upgrade to then. And if you purchase by the end of April, a nice whopping 20% discount. So I think with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank you all very much for joining us today. I hope I answered all your questions. I hope I wasn't too kind of random in how I went about it. But if you do have any follow-up questions, please give us a call, and we'd be happy to answer that for you. And I'll also mention that the demo on our site is still currently Studio Suite X. We won't have the Studio Suite XI demo available until it's actually shipping. But please give us a call with any questions, and thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.